she could pray for me, and then I would get healed, because I was already tormented. I was so weak, I was so thin, and many times I used even to faint on the road. I used to faint in the office, and really, even in the office, they wanted to dismiss me because of this weakness. I couldn't work at all. In a week, I could work at times once in a week, or times in a month. I would stay for 2 weeks and work 1 week, something like that. Then after that, when somebody told me, we went to that lady who was praying, who had the Spirit of the living God. Then when we reached there, the lady told me, if you have come here, don't you worry, the Lord is going to heal you. Then I went back home. When I went back home, I'm telling you the whole experience. It was about something like 4 days when I was just sleeping. It was after midnight and the lights were off, but I saw the presence of somebody I couldn't understand. But it was, anyway, it was not the powers of the enemy, but it was the power of the living God. I saw a man who I could not see my eyes because the roof just disappeared. Then I saw a very, very mighty man, very big in size. I couldn't tell how big he was. He came right on my bed. Then I could understand very well. Then he started squeezing my chest. He squeezed, because when he pressed me, I felt that even the springs of the bed could touch the floor. He squeezed me. Even when he touched my ribs, the ribs could just fold like this, and I felt that the bones were breaking. So I was just deep praying. I said, Lord, if this power leaves me, I would be a dead person. Then until when the time that power left me, I found that I was asleep. And in the morning, I remembered the whole experience. I said, Lord, what was this? I kept on asking myself. Then about 2 days, I went back. I was in the office working. When I was in the office, it was around the lunchtime. I felt the Spirit telling me, because it was very, very clear, said, you go back home. Because always I never used to go back home. We never used to have lunch, even in the office, even at home. It was a bit far. But the Spirit kept on telling me, you go back home. You go back home. I said, Lord, what am I going to do home? Then I picked my handbag, walked back home. When I reached home, I lied on my bed like this. When I was lying, then I felt that there was something which was just coming out of my chest. I said, Lord, I've never vomited worms since I was born. What is this? But I could feel there something coming right up here. Then when it reached here, then I felt the voice telling me that you go to the sink, open your mouth. Then I woke up, went into the sink. When the time I reached the sink, my mouth was just open, as if I couldn't close my mouth, as if there was electricity. It was so stiff. And then the vein which had rotten it right in the chest started coming out. I could see it coiling. It coiled and coiled and coiled. I don't know. I couldn't understand the whole thing. I said, Lord, what is this? I looked at it. I couldn't understand. But it was smelling so badly. Then after when it got finished, the mouth just closed by itself. I went back. I slept on my bed. I looked at the ceiling. I said, Lord, what is this? Am I going to die? I couldn't understand. Then after some time, the Spirit told me that the sickness, the asthma which you have been having for 15 years, now it is gone. And I really thanked the Lord. From that time, I never had asthma at all. Anyway, I forgot to tell you my names. My names are Gertrude Kabatalemwa. I'm born again. I have 4 children. The first husband was killed in 1973 by Idi Amin's soldiers. Then I got another husband. He was killed in 1980 by these forces who were running around, because at first he was an army captain, so they feared that maybe he would cause more trouble and go into the bush and fight the government. So they also murdered him and left me also with 2 children. From that time, I didn't understand very well what the power of God meant. So I kept on wondering what had happened, how I got healed. Until 1980, after losing the second husband, I really felt that there was God. I kept on seeking the Lord, asking the Lord that, Lord, if you are anywhere, please tell me, show me, then I may know you. Because I came from a Catholic background, I kept on praying to the Blessed Mary. All the time I would pray to the Blessed Mary. But one night when I was sleeping, in a vision, the Blessed Mary came. When she came, it was as if there was a storm, and I could see her from very far away, and her mantle was being blown by the wind. And when she stood somewhere, I could see vividly, she said, "You ask my son. Ask my son." She repeated it 3 times. When I woke up, I said, "Lord, what does this mean?" Because I didn't know salvation very well. Then I kept on asking myself until when in 1980 I got into a fellowship. Then people talked about Jesus Christ, talked about salvation. Then from that time I gave my whole heart to Jesus. And when I gave my heart to Jesus, I said, "Lord, I am not going to look back," because by that time I had no any other way. I saw that the world was very much against me, and at times I used to think that also God was against me. I asked myself so many times, why was I the one suffering? Because there was war, there were killings. They had killed my 2 husbands. I had 4 children, nothing to feed them, working in the office. Of course, the salary was not enough. I said, "Lord, what am I going to do?" So what I did, I said, okay, the only thing I will do is just to give my whole heart, my whole self, that you'll be the one to take care, because myself alone, I can do nothing. So it happened that by that time, when all this was happening, we were still in the regime of Amin. This Idi Amin, of course, I was working in his office, not right his secretary, but I was the secretary for his advisors. And many times I saw many horrors which used to take place in the office, and I used to call upon the Lord, and I used to intercede for those people. They would bring people, torture them there. They would bring people, kill them near the office, and you would find stains of blood. Always I used to say, "Lord, what is this?" Because it was really as if we were living in hell. So many times things used to happen. But in 1978, as I was sleeping, the Lord showed me. He brought Idi Amin in a dream. I saw he was such a mighty man. We saw his medals. He was just standing before me. When he was standing before me, then he fell face down. When he fell face down, he said, his power is over. And then I understood. I said, yes, the Lord is going to do it. And then we waited. That's when the time of war had started, because the war started right from Tanzania. Some exiles who had run to Tanzania started war, and then the Tanzanians supported them so that they could come and liberate us. But this liberation war, it was not all that good, because as I stand before you right now, I'm telling you the whole truth, what I saw. I cannot, at times, even when I think of them, I cannot register them in my head. So many times I pass through fire. I pass through crossfires when people would be fighting. I would just pass there with the name of the Lord. I'd say, Lord, I had a scripture which I got from Psalms 118:17, which says, I shall not die, but I will live to tell the works of the Lord. And always I passed through many dangerous places, and many times even I'd pass through bullets, and no bullet would touch me. That's why I'm appealing to you that surely when you have Jesus, He is everything. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm standing here to testify before you. Many things I'm going to tell you, I don't share them with people, but I asked the Lord that, Lord, when the time comes, one day I will have to tell about your goodness. I will tell your faithful people how you have rescued me, how you have protected me. He protected my 4 children and myself, even at times when things would be worse. So many times we would go without food, even for weeks, but the Lord would protect us. And my prayer always, I would pray and tell the Lord, Lord, you know I have accepted your name, and I'm not going to shame your name. I don't want to embarrass you before people. But what you do, Lord, you keep me strong, and for sure He has kept His promise. My children, though they are not all that strong, they at times they would have a meal maybe once in 2 days. At times we would go for 3 days completely without food, and this is not a lie. And we would just pray for water. I say, Lord, you bless this water. Let's go to sleep. and then you protect my children. And the Lord would honor his word and give them strength. Many times I would go at night to listen whether they are still breathing, and I would find that they are still breathing. So I don't want to share about myself alone, but anyway, me, I always thank the Lord. Me, at least I'm a mother, I'm around with them. When they look at me, they feel happy, because my children always, before I get home, always you just find them at the balcony waiting for my coming home. But there's children in Uganda right now, even where I'm speaking, they don't have a mother, they don't have a father, they don't have any relative, because many villages were completely swept. What you would find, it is only skeletons of dead people. So these children, maybe they would find a family of 8, maybe a family of 10. This soldier would just come and put a machine gun and finish them off. When they saw that they were running, what they used to say, they would say that, why should we waste our bullets? What we do, we just cut their throats. They would just cut one by one, and finish them all and leave the family completely down. And few children, maybe if one child would manage to escape, she would just escape through the bush, and many people, many children died in the bush because of starvation. They couldn't find food. Anyway, Uganda is not all that a bad country. It is very, very rich, because our climate is so good. So some survived, because they would even stay in the bush, going, eating wild roots, eating cassava. But there is time when everything, after 20 years went by, because the war took about 5 years. So there were no more cassava, there were no more roots, there were no wild, these banana plantations which you could find in the bush. So some died there. But those who found their way to the streets, to some places where they could be kept for some time until when the war ended, these are the children whom we collected. These children, we collected them right after the war. The wife of the president, soon after, when her husband took over the government, she came from exile. She came with a burden to collect these children, and many children, they were found on the verandas, and they were eating in the garbage pits, at times in the dustbins. That's the way how they used to survive. So we collected these children and put them wherever we could find, because all buildings in Kampala were completely destroyed. And you'd find that at times, for example, one home where we are having about 200 children, we found that that building had only a roof, but it had no windows, it had no doors, it had nothing. It was just a bare floor, and there was nothing what we could do. What we did, those children we had collected, we put them sleep on the floor, naked as they were, and then whatever we could get, the assistance, little food for at least 1 meal a day, we would give it to them. We put there some people to look after them. But later on, we introduced a system that these children can dig for themselves, those small as they are, because we have even very, very young children whom we found that they were with the army personnel. This war, when it was fought by women, by small girls, those whom who used to run away from schools, and those girls, small children who were maybe at times left by the war. If they kill a family, then they would just, the one child would escape, then would fall into the hands of these women who were fighting in the bush. Many children, like maybe, let's say, those who were still suckling, they would find them suckling the dead bodies. So these ladies, they got hold of these children, got them at their backs, then they would fight, meanwhile having these children at their backs. So some, they surrendered them to us because they were so many, and some were still very young at the time they came, because they couldn't hold guns. But the ones who were, at least whom they picked, were about 3-4 years, they entered the armed forces. So these children also, we have baby soldiers in Uganda, which is not anywhere in the world. You find at least a child of 8 years is having a gun and he knows how to fight. And these children are the ones who mostly fought the war. Because these people, what they would do, they would use these small boys to go and spy on the these government forces which were killing, destroying, and then these children, they would just go as if they are playing a ball, or they would just get an old car tire, they go on playing, then they survey the enemy where they would be hiding. After that, then these children, if they saw that this group is too big for them, they wouldn't fight, and then they would just play back, go back and report to the old soldiers and tell them they are about so many people and they have such and such a guns. And those children, they were very, very well trained because they knew each and every gun. So what they would do, they'd go and report back, and these people, they come and attack them. But many times, whenever they found that the group was small, these children, they would be having grenades, they would be having at times they would hide their small guns somewhere. When they see that the group is small, they would just come and finish them off. So you can imagine such a child of about 8 years, about 7 years, knowing how to kill. It became impossible for the government to keep them in the community. So these small baby soldiers, the government is taking care of them. For us, we are taking care of the children who didn't get involved into the war to fight. So these are the children we are looking after. We have about 700 children right near the surroundings of the city in the center. But right now, at the moment, the children we have up country in the north and the east, where the war is still going on right now, there are so many, and they have no food at all. They sleep on the verandas, they sleep just in open areas, they have no clothes, they have no food. Even now, for this one is where I say that 1 meal a day, this 1 meal a day, it is for those orphans whom we are looking after. But these ones up country, they go even for weeks because the government cannot afford. We have rehabilitation relief supply which goes supplying food, but at times the vehicles are not enough, and because of the rebel activities, some vehicles, they cannot just go like that, because when they go, always they are killed on the way when they are taking relief food. These rebels, what they do, they take the food from them and take it to the bush. So these people, because of this, these people at times they fear they have to get a convoy of soldiers to escort these vehicles to take food to those disturbed areas where these people are having no food and they are dying of disease, because all kinds of diseases are there. So it takes sometimes a month, because where I work, we have a section which caters for that Ministry of Rehabilitation and Relief. So we know how these people operate. At times they take even 2-3 weeks without going, and when they go, they find people when they are very, very hungry and when they are at the starving point, and it really doesn't help at all. That's why I said this, our group said that really we need assistance. We don't have assistance from the government. The government has a lot. It was a lot. Since from 1971 up to 1986, when we were really liberated, all the roads from 19 happens because there were bombs everywhere and all the roads cracked. You find only potholes. The buildings, they were all completely bombed. You can count 1, 2, 3 buildings which are standing. Banks, shops, hospitals, schools. We don't have schools. Schools, the few ones which we have, cannot cater for the whole country, and it is so terrible in those areas. I will explain. Can I have the other paper where I can show them? In the northern part and the eastern part, who are right now suffering, having nothing at all to eat. But these are the shelters where you find them. When they get shelters, either they sleep at the bus park, and you find hundreds and hundreds of them at the bus park or taxi park where there is at least a shelter, having nothing to, like mattress or blankets, but they just sleep in the open. This is the kind of buildings I've told you about, where you find, and this is a familiar sight in Uganda. Wherever you go, you find that these buildings, they have no roofs, because the war affected us so much and people became so wild. Everybody is struggling for a living. So what they do when the war came, buildings which were still standing, they would go and loot, take the iron sheets, take the doors, take everything which they could lay hands on. So they left all the buildings. Everywhere you find buildings are like that. And when you are lucky, you get a building like this. That's where you put one door at the front door, you get another back door. Maybe you can put cardboards in the windows. Then people start staying in such a places. It is a familiar sight even right in town. You find buildings like this. In Uganda, we don't now have facilities of housing accommodation. Most people, they sleep in garages, they sleep in such a kind of buildings. Even they are worse, which are worse than this. So the potholes I've been telling you about is, you find this, anyway, this is a taxi park around the road, around the taxi park. Those floods you see, that is stagnant water, and those are the roads. But right now where I'm speaking about, only 3 roads have been constructed. Only 3 roads in the whole country, because the president we have right now, he's assisting very much. What he does, we do barter trade. So as the country can produce coffee, we produce tea, we produce granules and beans. What he does, he negotiates with other countries so that they give him what they have, and we give them. We collect these beans, granules, and coffee, give it to them, because the government doesn't have money at all right now. Now, do you see this lady, how she looks like? Because this lady is starving. She has no food, and for sure she has, anyway, she's sick. Because sickness, if you don't have enough food, for sure you find that most people, they are anemic like that. They don't have blood because of having no food, and when they get just a fever, it puts you down. Whatever little sickness, even if it's cough, even if it is just only flu, it puts you down because you don't have strength. So that's why she's looking like this. And at least anyway, now what we are doing, me, I'm on the side of the orphans. For the old people, anyway, there is nothing I can do, because the whole country is in a mess. You can't rise for, anyway, get food for each and everybody. Everybody has got to look for his own way of living. So it is not, anyway, this lady, you may see her that, anyway, she might not be educated. But even in the offices, I work in the office, but I go through many hurdles. These hurdles, I go through them because of Christ. Since I accepted Christ, I said, Lord, I will never shame your name or put your name, make your name be laughed at. In Uganda, in the government, the salary we get, it cannot feed somebody for 1 week. Either you'd buy a bunch of matoke, that's the main food we eat there. We don't have, anyway, we don't have sugar. Sugar is like a luxury, or milk is like a luxury. Because when the war came, since 1971 up to 86, all the animals were slaughtered. You find no milk. The milk we have, mostly we get powdered milk, which is donated from friendly countries. And of course, getting it, it is like half a liter, you get it at $1, equivalent to $1. So it is a lot of money. As in my case, I have 4 children. I cannot even afford to buy them milk every day. Maybe if I afford to buy milk, it will be once in once in a week to buy just half a liter of milk. And for sugar, that one you have completely to forget because it's not there. So in the office where you work, you don't get enough salary. So this has led many people to be corrupt. So what they do, they have to lie here, they have to cheat here so that they can make a living. But for my case, as a Christian, I made a promise to the Lord. I said, no, Lord, in the office, I do tell people about Christ. I lead people to Christ. When they have problems, even the Prime Minister himself, because I work there in his office, they really trust me. When I tell them something, they say, surely. And when they have problems, they call me for prayers. So what I did, I said, Lord, I will never tell a lie, or I will not cheat to say that I worked on Saturday and Sunday for 2 months, and yet I know I'm a Christian. If I do that, there is no way how I can share Christ with these people. So I said, I will keep a name for Christ, so that if I tell these people, they will understand that surely Christ lives. So even when things are so rough with me, I just keep it to myself. I'm frank, I'm sharing this testimony with you. Even in Uganda, even those close friends of mine whom I work with, I don't tell them. I don't share with them what I go through. But it is between me and my Lord. I said, Lord, I will keep a name so that these people, they will not laugh at your name, or they will not say that, why should we go to Christ? Because those who accepted Christ, we can see that they are suffering. I told the Lord, I said, Lord, so many times we go without food, we don't have enough, this and that, but I am asking you, you give me a strong body, that it will never show any sign of hunger, of anything. And Lord, I am praying that you keep sickness out of my house, because my children, if they get sick and I don't have money and I don't have food, these children really, I need to take them to hospital. But the Lord has been so faithful. Since 1982, I've never been to a doctor. These children, always the Lord has kept them healthy. And whenever they get maybe flu or fever, I just lay my hands on them and pray. And that's the end of it. And for me, since the Lord healed me of asthma, that was the end. Since 1977 and up to now, I never felt anything at all. And I don't get sick. And always, even when I come out of bed, when I have stayed for 3 days without food, we are just on plain water, I just walk so strong and go to the office and sit and do all the work without showing any sign that I am hungry or I am weak. But when I go back home, I fall on my knees, I call upon the name of the Lord. I say, Lord, thank you for being so faithful. Until when the Lord sends help, either he sends a brother or somebody, they bring us maybe at times a bunch of banana or something, then I thank the Lord. At times you can get a bunch of banana, you are having nothing, no tomato, no onion, no butter, no nothing. What I do, I say, praise the Lord. And this has taught me a lot, because I really thank the Lord, because he has kept his promise. Even when we eat those, we can put those bananas in the water, put their salt. I say, my children, let's praise the Lord and thank him. We thank him, we eat it, and surely the Lord is faithful. And my children, I taught them how to pray. Whenever they see situations, always, you know, suffering with, when you are alone, you can suffer. But when you are having children, my children started suffering when they were very, very young. But many times they would encourage me. They would say, Mommy, don't you worry, we know what you are going through, but we stand with you. We would just pray. Then they go to sleep. And nobody, especially when they see that it is too much on them, they come, they gather around. They just look at me without words. And I look at them. At times I'm the one to chase them. I want to say, you go to sleep, leave me alone, let me pray. I thank the Lord so much because he has been faithful to me. I told him, Lord, when you pass me through all this fire, I will tell your faithful people about this testimony. It's my first time to share this testimony with you. Nobody in Uganda knows about this testimony. But they see me walking. They think that I'm doing very well because I work in the office of the Prime Minister. Because when you are a Christian, you have so many testings. The very moment when the present government came into power, it was so terrible for me. We had no food at all at home. One day, I remember very well, we had stayed for 4 days without food, and when I reached home, we had something like corns, just grains. Then my elder daughter, we had even salt. We had no salt. She got these grains of corn, prepared them, cooked them for so many hours, but still they couldn't, because they were, I think, for planting. Medicine was put in it. It was for planting, it was not for eating. Because they were starving so much, they prepared these grains. They couldn't get cooked. When I came back from the office, I found that they had set the table and they were eating that. I tried, but I couldn't eat much than a bowl. It was too much. Then the next morning I said, okay, maybe the Lord will do a miracle. I went back to the office. But when I went in the office, by that time I was working for the Minister of State, Office of the President. And the Minister of State had the power that all the money for the government, for the security, was brought in our office. And the enemy would put everybody away. And when these sacks of money, when they were brought, I was just alone. And that was a really testing. I looked at the sack. They were 10 million, I remember. It was 10 million in sacks. They trusted me. They said, because you are saved, we know you can't do anything. So they put them there. They left the room. I looked at the money. The enemy told me that, pick some money. Your children are hungry. At least you can go and buy them food. I looked at them and I said, no. I will not, even if they've stayed for. I left them hungry. We had stayed without food. The other day I told you that we had those grains of maize, but still there was no food. I realized, I said, Lord, surely, should I take this money? I said, no. The enemy is putting me to the test. I pulled the sacks of money, took it to the minister's office, put them in the drawer. I went back to my seat. I started praying. I really prayed so that the temptation could not win me. Then at least people came. When they came and the minister came, he was a bit far. He was in the meeting with the president. I remember I rang him. I told him that they've brought the money and he was supposed to receive it. So he drove straight away, came to the office and found the money. After when he took it, I said, praise the Lord. I went home. Again, we stayed the night without food. Then after some time, somebody brought us some sweet potatoes and beans. We ate for at least 2-3 meals. It got finished. Still the starving continued after that. Then another time, again, it was the same thing. They brought the money in when we had nothing at home at all. This time the temptation was too great. I said, Lord, this is too much. If I take just only, these are millions. But if I take just only 500, I go and buy myself, buy my children only cassava. At least, surely you will sympathize. You can also sympathize with me. But later on, I said, no, this is a temptation. Again, I prayed. The temptation, the Lord saved me. So many times I went through things like that. So that's why I'm standing before you to testify that surely If you are faithful to the Lord, He's faithful. If I'm not praising myself, because of all what I passed through, I know that the Lord has been with me, and that's why I stand here. I didn't have any dream at all that I will come to the United States, because I would always ask myself, where shall I get the money? It's so expensive, and in Uganda getting $1, it is like getting gold. Even when I got this money, people laughed at me who don't know the Lord. They said, no, don't waste that money. You have a family, you have no husband, you have your children. They are there suffering. Why use all that money going to the States? You go get these $3,000, go to the garage. There are pickups there. You'll change it, because right now $1 in Uganda is 500 for one. And if you change that 3,000, you can get a good amount where you can purchase yourself a small pickup, 1200 cc, so that you can do business. But when I looked at how I prayed to the Lord, and I promised Him that, Lord, if you will allow me to get this money for the ticket, I'll have to go to attend this conference of Maurice Cerullo. So now when these people were trying to persuade me that I leave the trip and get this money and go and do this and get business, I said, no, I will not be unfaithful to the Lord, because He has been faithful to me. So I really made sure that I traveled. And of course the Lord prepared that I should be here before you. And the Lord did it, because since the days since Saturday when I came to this place, the Lord has been talking to my spirit that it is His will that He wanted me to come to this place and share with you. Because if I had got that ticket, the return ticket, New York, California, I would have gone back. But the Lord did it that I paid a ticket which was so expensive, because even when I told Dr. Ness, he said, my God, they cheated you, because you could have even got a ticket of about $99, a return ticket. I said, is that so? He said, yes. This 571, I had only $600, and I knew I would get a ticket from New York to Orange County, then Orange County, and then go back to New York. But I found myself paying for one-way ticket, 571. When I was in the room that very night, I really cried. I said, Lord, I don't want to embarrass your name, to go on asking, begging for money from people I don't understand, I don't know, they don't know me, I'm strange. But the Lord has been talking to my spirit. He said, it was my will that you come to this place. Then I struggled so much when after the end of the conference, I said, Lord, let these people of Maurice Cerullo get me a ticket so that I can go back to New York. But the Lord told me that waste no time, go with these girls when they come. And then I said, this is the Lord. What I did, I packed my suitcase, went, sat down, and waited for these ladies until when they came back. If you still want to hear anyway, I have so many experiences I can share with you through all what I have gone through. This, I want to encourage you that the Lord is faithful. What I went through is really fire, because the Lord Himself told me soon after, when these circumstances started, especially the years which have been difficult for me. It is the year from 1986 up to this time when I came here. I had a small car soon after when my husband was killed, 1980. I cried to the Lord. I said, Lord, because that very time, it was a time for going to visit my children at school who were in a boarding school. I said, now their father has been killed. How am I going to see these children? Because always when it is a visiting day, we would cook a meal, take it, be with the children the whole day, then come back home in the evening. But this time I said, Lord, what am I going to do? The Lord was faithful. I was just sleeping in the night, Then he showed me a beautiful blue bird in my hands. He said, "You see that blue bird? That's the car I have given you." Then I said, "Lord, where is this car going to come? Where was it going to come from?" I didn't have even a bank account, except I had a debt with somebody which had taken so long and I couldn't trace him. So it was about 120,000. So early in the morning, the Lord led me to go to the garage where these people were displaying cars. When I walked there, I found exactly what the color of the bird he showed me, and it was the color of the car. Then the Spirit told me, "That is your car, I told you." And of course it was the only one car. So what I did, I rang the person who had my money. When I rang him, I said, "Please, can you give me my money?" He said, "Come over, I'm going to give you your money." Right there and then, I walked there. He wrote a check of 120,000 shillings. Straight away, I took the check to the manager, and the manager gave me the car with everything, registration, everything done. Then I got this car. This car used to serve the whole family. I dedicated it to the Lord. It's the one which used to do the work of the Lord. I would go and visit prisoners. I would give it to all brothers and sisters who were coming from the States to come and preach the gospel. This car used to do each and everything. So, and at the same time, I would hire it so that I get at least sugar and food for the children. But in 1986, when the new government came, then these soldiers who were running away, a soldier came and got me at a gunpoint and took this car away from me. After when he took that car, 2 weeks passed. Then the Lord told me in a dream, he said, "Your faith is going to be tried." I couldn't understand. I said, "Lord, if it's you who is going to try me, you give me strength to stand." So he gave me strength. That's why I'm even standing and testifying before you. So after this car was taken, that's when I started suffering all kinds of hunger of everything, because I couldn't make ends meet. This car, after when it was taken something like 1 month, then they found it when it was completely dismantled, except what we found, it was the engine and the body was separate. Then those people who found the engine called me. I went, I got the engine and I got the body. And that's how I got my ticket to come from London to New York. Because that car, after that, I tried to put it together, but it couldn't work because so many parts, and it was going to cost me a lot. Then I started looking for somebody to buy that car. I couldn't get the person. Since 1986 until the time when I got the ticket from Uganda to London, then I said, "Lord, how am I going to get a ticket from London to New York?" Then when I prayed like that, I came from the office. When I reached home, I found a lady and a gentleman waiting for me. They said, "We want to buy your car." I said, "But the car is in shambles." They said, "We don't mind, you tell us the amount." When I told them the amount, it was the exact amount which bought me a ticket from London to New York. So I knew that it was the plan of the Lord. So I praise the Lord very much, the way He has sustained me, the way He has protected me. So many times He protected me. There is an experience the time when I still had that car, because gunshots would break anytime, anywhere. This time I had a niece who was very sick in hospital, and it was raining so heavily. Then soldiers came and took cover all over the place, and I was just driving through the valley. Then all of a sudden I couldn't, because I was in the car. Then they started shooting. I could hear the bullets passing over the roof of the car, but no bullet could go through the window. But I said, and all the time I was praying, "Lord, protect me, protect me, protect me." And when I looked behind me, there was a man who was following me. Then, the line which was following me, all of them, they were killed. I kept on driving, went to hospital. The fighting continued and continued up to 7 when it stopped. When I came back, I found the cars were besides the road and the dead bodies were removed. I remembered because the one who was following me, I knew him very well. He was even a relative of mine, just a distant relative, because we took, when we were running from Amin, we stayed in the same house where we took refuge. So this man was hit and the next one was hit, but me, the Lord protected me. Then when I came, I found the rain, it had rained so much, and the bodies looked like as if they were nothing. In Uganda, lives have been like nothing. I said, Lord, life in Uganda has become, people were dying like dogs. As you would find a car, if a cat hit by a car, then you find that the dead body is there, everybody is running his own way, nobody cares to get the body. And I felt so bad. I said, Lord, have we reached such an extent to die like rats, to die like dogs, to die like cats? Nobody cares. Once if you are dead, so many times we would just jump dead bodies. You just find one here, one there, another rotting there, another bleeding there, then you just say, let me find my way, and you just go through. So many times I went through such a kind of situations, but the Lord always protected me. Another time when we were just in the office, I shared this at the fellowship where we went. We were in the office. I was deep in prayer and I was doing something which kept me busy, and yet the war had already broke in town. People were fighting badly and people were dying. Then people started running out of the office. Me, I didn't realize because I was on the top floor and I couldn't see what was going on. But at the time I realized, it was too late. Everybody had run away and I was just alone. Now I looked at myself, I said, Lord, how am I going to reach home? My children were at school. I said, now my children will run, and of course so many children, that's how they were killed, and so many children, that's how they would miss their parents. Because when war broke, if children were at school, one way would take the other way, another one would take the other way, the father would never be seen again, the mother would never be seen again. Then those are the kind of children most we have in the orphanage. Because when you ask them, they said, when we ran away, we couldn't trace our mommy, we couldn't trace our brothers, everybody takes his own way. The time when you realize, you find yourself alone, roaming all over the place. So when I came out of the office, I said, Lord, it's only you who is going to protect me. I got my handbag, I had a small Bible, I got out my Bible, and the gunshots were still going on, bombs were going on. Then I said, Lord, you show me the way. I have to reach home and find my children. I opened the Bible, I read back that scripture, I shall not die, but I will live to tell the good works of the Lord. I closed my Bible. I started walking. When I was walking, I didn't know that I was walking where the soldiers had taken cover and they were all in the bush, and there was a roadblock, nobody could pass. Those people who were trying to pass, they were laid there, they were all lying across the road. Now when I reached there, I said, Lord, what am I going to do right now? Now a prayer came into my heart. I said, Lord, I am praying that you close the eyes of those men. Nobody will see me. And I remembered where the story of Lot, when he was escaping from Sodom and Gomorrah, how the Lord closed the eyes of those men when they were looking for the daughters. So I said, Lord, remember how you did it, that you closed the doors. These people, they couldn't even find the door. Let these people not see me at all. Then I started walking with my Bible. For sure, it was a miracle. Nobody was walking by that time except those people who were just lying face down. Me, I came and the soldiers were there, and they were, anyway, you know, the sight of soldiers used to frighten us so much. You would just find yourself, you are a victim. So what I did, I just walked straight with my Bible, and without looking sideways, I just walked through, and in the main road, because they were sitting on both sides, I walked through and nobody said anything. I just found myself, when I had just gone over, I looked back. I said, Lord, so I am through. I started thanking the Lord. I praised the Lord. I went running. I reached home. I found that my children were all at home and there was no problem with them. I said, I praise you, Lord. Then that very time, that's when soldiers were looting everywhere from house to house. They would get lorries and lorries, army lorries, park it there. They come into the house. They tell you, whoever is in the house, start carrying your whatever you have in the house, even if it is a sofa set like that, you just carry it on your head, go and pack it so well in the lorry. Because that time, it was a time which was so terrible. Everybody had packed his suitcases ready to move to the next destination. Nobody knows. So all the suitcases were all packed. So these people, they came, they said, everybody start carrying all your luggages. But these people, my neighbors, when they were packing, they asked me, have you packed? I told them, I have nowhere to go. I'm not going to pack, but the Lord is going to protect me. And good enough, the Lord is good. These people, they knew what I was, what they did. They brought all their suitcases, all their valuable things into my house. So the store was full, everywhere was full. Then I said, okay, Lord, you are going to protect us. Then when things became so, the situation became tense, and these people, they were coming close to my house. I said, I called my children, I said, come, let's pray. We prayed. After praying, I told them, look, the Lord is going to protect us. There is nothing in this house which is for free or which I have stolen, but all things I have made them with my own sweat, and nobody will take even a teaspoon out of this house. Then the children kept quiet, went back to, because by that time we never used to sleep on beds. We would just sleep because there was no food. Food had got finished. We were all sleeping under the bed, and we would just keep there and sleep in the corridors between walls, because whenever bombs fell or straying bullets, they could hit you anywhere. So what we would do, we would just sleep right in the middle of the corridor. So all of us, we would just lie there, and that's where we used to sleep. So this time the children went back to sleep. For me, I said, okay, let me go to my bedroom and start praying. I went to my bedroom, started praying. Meanwhile I was praying, then the knock came on the door. Then I said, okay, the time has come. I went, I opened the door. When I opened the door, straight away I met the soldier who was holding a cocked pistol. Straight away he put it on my face, on my forehead. He said, I'm going to blow your brains right now. I want money. I told him, look, I said, in my spirit I was praying, Lord, give me strength so that I may talk to this man, so that I may be strong. I said, Lord, you give me strength. I said, I don't have money, and for sure we didn't have even 100 shillings in the house, which is nothing to Uganda. So I told him, I don't have money. He said, I want money, or else I'm going to kill you. I said, I don't mind, you kill me. But the children started crying because they knew that the man was going to shoot me right there and then. Because killing in Uganda, it was nothing. Right there were 3 dead bodies in our compound, which were lying there. And of course, anyway, children would go and say, Mommy, there are 3 dead bodies already there, which they had killed so many, and their blood was still coming out, and they were still fresh bodies. I said, okay, if it's my time, I will die, but I'm not going to give up. I talked to this man. I told the man, I said, look, me, I'm a saved lady. I believe in Jesus. If you kill me, and the pistol was still on my face, if you kill me, one day or later, you will also have to die. And whatever you're asking, these things are material things. Then he said, okay, let's go into your bedroom. When he reached in my bedroom, of course, I don't have property. The only thing, I had a dead radio. It has never worked for almost a year because I couldn't repair it. And there was a small TV. It is about 8-inch. So that's the one which we see, we watch. So there was that small TV, and the only thing was a suitcase which I have right now. It was somewhere. Then he saw the suitcase. He said, okay, bring even that suitcase. I'm taking this TV and I'm taking the radio. I said, okay, if you are taking them, where are you taking them? Because you may die anytime, still you'll have to leave them. He said, don't argue with me or else I'm killing you right now. I said, okay, Lord, let me keep quiet. I kept quiet. Then he said, carry your things. I carried the suitcase. He carried the TV and the radio. We started walking towards the door. When we were just out of the door, then the lorry where he had stolen all the things, it was full. Somebody from nowhere, maybe a driver, just drove off with all what he had stolen and took them. Then he started stopping. He dropped this which he had taken out of my house, said, stop, stop, stop. And the man went. Then he said, Mama, can you come and take your things back? Then I praised the Lord. I said, Lord. And I was the only person in the whole surroundings, the whole village, who at least they never took anything out of my house. And all those people who brought their things into my house, those were the only things which remained in their possession. So I praise the Lord very much because He is so faithful. When we stand with Him, for sure, He is faithful because He has been faithful with me. Praise the Lord. Amen. Yes. If anybody has a question, I'm ready to answer it.
Can I ask, where are your children now?
My children, they're at home. I left them home in Uganda. Yes. No, where I work in the center, in the capital city of Uganda. So I left them in a flat where we stay.
You have someone to look after them?
I have the old girl, she's 18 years. So she's the one who looks after the young ones.
That must have been difficult for you to leave them.
It was difficult, but what could I do? I really also felt it, and they also felt it. But because of the Lord, I said, I have to go. Yeah.
Are these black people that were killing their own people?
Oh, yes. They were just only, it was like a civil war. Some tribes, they thought that they were the minority. So when they were in power, they started torturing and killing everybody to frighten everybody so that they don't take power from them. Yeah, that's how it happened.
Why did they take all your things?
No, they didn't take my things, but they took all the things of my neighbors. But mine, they couldn't take them because I had prayed over them, and the Lord's hand was upon me, and the Lord's hand protected my property.
Okay.
So they tried to take them, but they couldn't take them. They got them to the door and they were stopped and they had to leave them. Because the Lord was protecting.
Yeah.
Sister Gertrude, is it a particular orphanage that is set up, or is there many orphanages?
This orphanage, we have the one which I'm taking part. It's an orphanage which I said the president's wife is the one who started it, and it is the largest orphanage. We gave it a name. It's called Uganda Women's Effort to Save the Orphans. Yeah, so it is the effort of only women. The government supports us, but doesn't support us financially. We ladies, we have to look for the way how we can support those orphans. We appeal to friendly countries if they can come up and assist us, because right now even these children in the orphanages, we have a problem, especially for scholastic materials. They are very, very scarce in Uganda. Like books, they are very expensive, pencils, and such a kind of things which at least to start education with. we don't have them. These orphanages, we need assistance. Yes.
Is the U.S. government helping any, or you have contact with the U.S. government?
So far, I don't remember where we have contacted them, but we have contacted other countries like West Germany, like Italy. When these children, when we go to them, there is a certain company which gave us a lot of milk. Another company gave us about 100 beds for the children. At least in this orphanage where there are about 200 children, they at least 100 they have beds. So the rest they are still on the floor. Yeah.
Even if though you get these things from these other countries, from Europe, do they still have a hard time getting them in?
No, we don't have any hard time in getting them in, because this orphanage, when it was started, the government helps assist us to get these things in the country without any tax. If you offer to send us some things, if they arrive there, there will be no tax. It is a tax-free organization. So we are not taxed. What you do, you tell us we've sent you this and this. When it arrives, we just go and we receive our things. So that's what at least the government has assisted us with.
How are how is it handled for their medical needs, if they need the doctors or medicine?
Medicine.
Where do they get medicines for your orphanage?
For our orphanage. In fact, there is a certain company from West Germany. Around November, December, they sent us about 2 containers. Anyway, it contained so many things: clothes, medicine, building materials. And then what we did, because we needed the money badly, there are other things, of course, what we did, and even shoes, plenty of shoes. Those containers had a lot of things. What we did, we sold these things with the organization of the orphanage, so that we get the money, buy the materials, go and build and start building homes for these children, because we are planning to build them homes, not to remain in orphanages. At least if we build a house, it can contain, we put there a mother, which we call a mother, then we give her about 7 or 10 children or less, so that these children, they can grow in surroundings of a home, so that they have at least a mother, as they don't know the love of a mother, the love of a father, so that at least these mothers we put there, they can give them, bring them, teach them their characters, good manners in the home, so that these children also, they can grow like other children. Because, for example, me now, I'm just only a mother without the father, but my children, I teach them as exactly you'd find children in a home, how to behave, how to, to go about the whole business in the home, and for sure they feel homely. Even though they miss their father, but always they feel that there is somebody. So that's what we want to introduce, that we get homes, build a 3-bedroomed house or 4-bedroomed house, put the children there, put somebody to care for them. They get, they prepare their own meals, not to be in a big commune about 200 children, because even when one misbehaves, you can never know. So that's what we are trying to introduce. So we sold this property which was sent to us. We sold, there were some very, very good materials, even bathing tubs, tiles and whatnot, because the material there which we are using, if we sold that, we would buy at a cheaper price, and at least material which is cheaper and in quantity, so that we can build more homes. These materials which were sent couldn't even finish one home. But there are plenty, because we had about more than 20 bathtubs, showers, shower basins, and of course, anyway, we didn't need all this to make such a home for these orphans. We need something simple, a simple home to make for them. So we sold these, get some funds, then we buy cheap materials which are anyway made in Uganda so that we make them a home. Yeah, and the same as medicine, because even there were some medical instruments, this and this.
That only could be used in hospitals.
Yes, in hospitals. Our hospitals also are in a big mess because the country, what the war has caused, the hospitals, you find patients sleeping on bare floor. If you go to hospital, you don't expect to find a bed. If you find a bed, you are the luckiest. At times, what they do in hospital, if you are admitted, they put you on the springs just without any mattress, without any blanket. It is you. If you have a good clothes, you just put on the springs and you sleep. If you are lucky, you get an aspirin.
Sister Gertrude, what are the most valuable things that we could send to you?
Most reliable things right now.
Valuable, most important to you.
Most important, we need clothing. We need scholastic materials. We need medicine. We need seeds, because our country, it is fertile and we have 3 planting seasons. If we introduce these children in homes or in orphanages, or what we've been planning to get at least enough land so that we can start digging our own food, planting our own crops so that we can feed these orphanages. I mean these orphans. This has been our plan. Those are the most important things now.
See, the very things that God has trained us or put before us are the very things that's the most important thing. And that's why this ministry that God has raised up for all the nations of the world, for such places, such conditions as this, that we might be able to meet the needs of the people. And so you understand why the word brother here. Because of the things that God has called us to do to help the people of the world. Very important text. We send the things that they need. And we had just recently, one organization called us and said, can you use used clothing? We said, of course we can use used clothing. They said they're already packed. Can buy these machines and pack them very solid. And so we didn't go through them. We left them. And now we're ready to send some of these, which were prepared like this, for Uganda.
Praise the Lord.
In this container that Brother David in Senegal is sending to Uganda.